Welcome to the Black Women's World Podcast. Welcome to Black Women's World, where Black women vibe and thrive together. And if you ain't a Black woman, you'll get to know at least one. Because this Black Women's World, my Black woman's world, is whatever I say it is, simply because I am. So welcome, SistaNistas and SistaNista lovers. We're here for you. Much love and peace. Can you imagine a fruit tree standing in the middle of a forest among a bunch of evergreens and the conversations that are had about it? Can you imagine the conversations of with those who harvest from a fruit tree but don't understand winter? Can you imagine those who harvest from a fruit tree, what they tell other people about it? Or can you imagine the conversation the fruit tree has about itself during winter? You know, maybe the fruit tree says, "Is this it? Am I dying? What happened to my fruit? I was just popping apples or oranges. I was just popping them jokers a couple of months ago." You know, I remember back in high school, the band would always sell fruit in the fall, apples and oranges, and they would do it for their fundraiser. And so in some places, fall is the peak time. We get fruit in from other countries now. You may get avocados or even bananas and, from Ecuador or other countries. So they come so some of these countries are bearing fruit when we're not, our fruit trees are not bearing in the United States, or at least in states that experience all four seasons. But can you imagine the conversation a fruit tree would have with itself? What did I used to be? Or can you imagine the conversation a farmer who harvests trees? Think about the orange groves in Florida or apple groves, and what the conversation a farmer has about his trees in winter. But yet again, can you imagine the conversation an arborist, somebody who takes care of trees, that knows trees, has about a tree? And all those different conversations are going on about that tree. If you've been a tree, a fruit-bearing tree in someone's life, whatever fruit you bear, whatever you give them, and maybe there's an exchange, but let's just talk about you right now. You've been bearing fruit to people in your life, and you stay in spring, you stay in summer, you stay, and they can always come and pick. They can always come and pick from you. But when seasons change and your leaves begin to turn and you go into winter, can you imagine the conversations? I thought you were giving tree. I thought you ain't. Man, last time I came around here, you had some apples. But now you ain't got nothing. I knew you weren't going to be. I knew it wasn't going to last. I knew you won't. I knew it. And they go tell other people, "See, I told you." And then the other people say, "I told you. Stay from around it. Man, she had a few apples, but she ain't got none no more." And then the conversations that tree had, maybe they're right. Maybe I don't, I used to have apples. I don't know if I'm going to get these apples again. My leaves are turning. Matter of fact, they're not only turning, but they're falling off. And I'm getting a little cold and I'm feeling a little dry. And the only apples I see are the rotten ones that have hit the ground, and that's cold. And am I going to be worth anything anymore? And what's happening to me? And I begin to think about and look at, when I said hello winter and welcoming what that means, a lot of times we don't understand the benefits of winter. And I thought about, of course, many people who are familiar with the Christian Bible, we even probably will go to the different scriptures that talk about seasons. And one is Ecclesiastes. And for everything, there is a season. I like the Message translation where he says there's an opportune time to do things at the right time well. And so when we think about there's a time to plant, there's a right time to plant. There's a right time to be born, a right time to kill. Some things need to be killed off, whether they be not necessarily human life. And sometimes in that case, we die. There's a necessary time to die. But, maybe there's to kill weeds or to kill a type of agent that's hurting somebody, or to kill bacteria. There's a right time. There's we just had the yard winterized, where where they put the holes in. I can't even think of what you call it now. Type in the chat, Owen, if you know what it is. I can't remember. But when they come with aerate, that's what it is. When they aerate the yard and they put the holes in the ground, and then they throw seeds, and and they came the other day, and one thing about when they throw the seeds, Owen had to go out there and tell them, hey, look, this time y'all stop throwing the seeds in my flower bed. Because you don't want the grass seeds to be in your flower bed, because then you got to pull that up along with the weeds. But in the time of the seasons, look at him laughing. In the time of there is an opportune time for everything. And I was just speaking with someone about timing, how awesome timing is. And I went all the way back to the timing of when I lived in Okinawa. There were some things God was doing in my life that I could not have done except but for there. There was some timing of when we came back stateside, and the timing that I got a job in Raleigh. And somebody's on here was the person who trained me at that first job. The timing of if she didn't work there, would I have been trained and had a wonderful relationship then that still, and that was 2006. So since 2006, that relationship, had she not been there at that desk for me to know the job, and whatever brought the timing for her, and then the timing for me to start a coaching practice, and the timing for, we even talked about when Jada was diagnosed with her different abilities. Had it not been for that teacher in that classroom who saw potential in her, who wrote the IEP so she would not be taken out of regular school and put in an alternative school for children with learning disabilities, though hers was one, there was something about her that the teacher saw, if that teacher had not been in that classroom at that time. So even when it comes to the time and the seasons, and when Ecclesiastes talks about it's a time to make war and a time to make peace, I would like to say I'm an agent of peace. I believe I am an attribute. I believe I personify peace. But don't get it twisted, baby. Just because people are in peace, it doesn't mean they don't know how to make war. Because sometimes when peace enters a room, chaos erupts, but in the timing of winter, and so many things happen in the winter of our lives that are so beautiful. So when I say, hello, winter, come on in here with your fine self. It's like we have to prepare for winter. We prepare food. I know some people in my life used to say, you think too much. You think too far ahead. I think I've even shared some of that with you all before. But from the standpoint of when it comes to be around May or so, I was getting strawberries. What you getting so many for? Because I'm going to cut them and freeze them, and so I can have I can make a strawberry cobbler or do strawberry smoothies fresh in the wintertime. Come around, June, you get watermelon. I don't do too much stuff with watermelon in the wintertime, because you're storing the juice or whatever, Yeah, but then come peach season. I get peaches by the bulk and peel them and cut them up and freeze them so I can have, I like sweets. There I go with that peach cobbler. I might do peach smoothies. I just might want to eat some peaches. And so the preparation, whenever I make sweet potato pie filling, I make a lot at one time. I may be only making one pie then, but I freeze the filling. So I can have, if I want to make a pie, I don't have to go through all that peeling and baking. I bake my sweet potatoes. It kind of preserves the flavor a lot better than boiling. Hint, hint. But there's so many things we do that the timing, the things how we prepare. And so we prepare our clothing. We take out, if you put your clothes in the attic or put them in storage for different seasons, your bulkier clothes, your coats, maybe you layer because you're getting prepared. And trees even prepare. I want to really focus in on how trees really prepare for the winter, because I talked about Jesus with the fig tree. I know there's a song where a tree planted by the rivers of water. I shall not be moved. And here's another thing. Sometimes you do need to be moved. There's a tree, and I'm going to get the name wrong, but it's nicknamed the walking tree. and it's in over there in the Amazon. And when I first heard about it, I think it was Jamal Bryant talked about it, and I was like, ain't no trees really walking. So I listened to what he said about it. Then I went and looked it up, and they do call it a walking tree. Now there's myths and theories about trees that actually, take off and walk. But this walking tree, I want to say it's a Sectaria exercia, and I may be saying it wrong. Go look it up. It's in the tropical forest, and the roots don't grow. Well, some of the roots, but most of the roots don't grow down in the ground. They grow above ground. And if you can see my hands, it kind of grows like if you had just like this, like let me see if I can describe it for those listening. If you had logs crossed top and they were kind of layered like this, but it grows like this because when it's in the forest, it looks for the sun. And when those roots are growing like this, it will start leaning towards the sun, and the roots, it won't allow the roots to hold it back, and it'll make those roots die off and grow new roots towards the sun. So it's constantly leaning. So in the matter of a span of life, it can move 2 or 3 feet just from letting roots die off so it can move towards the sun. And so sometimes in your life, if you might be one of those, and it's in the palm tree family. You may be one of those type of trees where you grow and your roots grow a lot more above ground. And because you're leaning towards the SON and you need things in your life, sometimes those other roots have to die off around the baseline so you can have the strength to grow new roots and lean forward and move towards what gives you life, what gives the plants go through a whole lot of things. They get their life like much of us from the sun, but so it prepares. So there's some trees that explode if they don't acclimate properly to prepare for winter, whether the winter comes in hurriedly or whether, what weather patterns now we have with global warming and things like that. If trees don't get enough time to acclimate to winter, they can explode. And I'm going to explain to you how that happens. But before I get to that, the tree changes, the bark changes on a tree. Because the bark provides the insulation a tree needs. And I want you to, the whole time I'm talking about a tree, think about your own life. The bark provides insulation. It protects against freezing. It helps the tree not dehydrate. And some people will say, well, what about trees? All trees don't go through a winter. What about trees in tropical places? Well, they go through what they call a dry, hot winter, because trees have to have a time of drying out. So when your tropical Caribbean islands and all that, leaves still shed, it still stays green, but it dries out during the dry season. And so then when the water comes back in or whatever, so they still have a time where they hibernate. It doesn't look like trees in a seasonal winter, but they do die. Parts of the tree has to die. And I'm going to get to the reason why. But a lot of times it looks dead. And I thought about even in my own life, because in parts of my life, and I did a video on social media the other day, in parts of my life, I know I'm in winter. And when you are in winter, I may look like I'm dead, but baby, if you could only see my root system. I may look like I'm dead, but if I was a maple tree, if you could only see the sap rising, because let me share that with you. If you can tell, I'm so excited. I'm not, anyway, but when a maple tree, it goes dormant for the winter because it senses a shift in the daylight. And at that point, it begins to make changes in its own cellular level, and it becomes more tolerant for the cold temperatures. So the tree begins to metabolize. And there's some other internal processes that happen, but it slows down to conserve energy. And while it's slowing down to conserve energy, it thickens. Instead of the water run fluidly, the water thickens and begins to run slowly. And that's where we get sap. So maple trees produce sap when they're in their dormant state. And I begin to think about being dormant. When you see that tree, if you see that tree standing starkly in the forest and it's cold and it's got snow around the base and the branches are laden with ice and icicles hanging down, and it may look dead, but it's just dormant. And I was like, okay, well, what does it mean to be dormant? But winter is necessary to complete the cycle of dormancy. You have to have times of dormancy. And when I was looking up what it means to be dormant, and I'm gonna find my little definition right here. Here it is, right here. Is to sleep, not be dead, of course. But it's present but not active. Present but not active. Temporarily inactive. It's in a condition of biological rest, inactivity, characterized by a cessation of growth or development. It's quiet, it's latent, it's inoperative, but it's not dead. It's biologically alive, but resting for suspended growth and reduced metabolism. Again, inactive, minimal metabolic activity. And when we talk about cessation, it just means it's a temporary state. It's not erupting. And so a lot of times you have to look at, like I said earlier, if that tree or people that normally get fruit from that tree are having a conversation about that tree. And it's like, you look dead. No, I ain't dead. And the root system continues to grow. The tree dips down into the soil because the soil is also having its own transformation. The soil is also replenishing the nutrients. Farmers look forward to that first frost because that first frost lets them know the soil is getting a reprieve so that the crops and the trees can pull the nutrients from the soil. If the soils don't rest, the trees can't eat. If the trees can't rest, we can't eat. We can't get shade. We can't get the oxygen that we get from trees, and the carbon dioxide and all the exchange that happens and it's necessary. When I say, hello, winter, come on in here with your fine self, because it is necessary. And though you may look dead to other people, that remaining active that is happening during those winter months is allowing the roots to get more water than it usually gets. And by chance, the roots are located near the nutrients and they expand and so many things are happening. And it has to. You have to have winter in order to pop in the spring, in order to last through the summer. If that tree does not absorb and get all the nutrients and slow down with its water processes, then it will not survive the summer. It will not survive the activity. And one thing about winter, we have to realize that when we're going through the winter season, and it may not be your entire life, because I'm not having winter in every area, but where I'm having winter, I've learned the song says, I won't complain. I won't complain. You can't spend your winter time in angst about summer. Oh, I can't wait for winter to get over. I can't wait. You're using energy you don't have to. And let me share with you some benefits about having a winter. And us as human beings, let's skip we already talked about the trees, but if you think about winter even as a human being, let me give you 4 positive health effects that happen during a normally cold winter. And our winters are changing now because of global warming. Sometimes they're more harsh. Sometimes we're not getting enough cold days. And our foliage and our plant life is reaping the consequences. And then we reap the consequences of it not having a full natural cycle. Now I believe God in the intelligence of the Spirit of God can shift and make creation respond to whatever. But in the transition of that, we see how things suffer. But in our own lives, you have to have winter sometimes, because 4 of the benefits of winter: increased and improved brain function. Increased and improved brain function. That's number 1. Number 2 is reduced inflammation. Reduced inflammation. Number 3, and you're going to really love this, is increased fat burning. Now, some increased fat burn. Now, some people say they will gain weight in the winter. Well, that's not because your natural body increases fat burning. That's because most times people eat more in the wintertime and move less. But in your natural physiological processes in the wintertime upon cold temperatures, your body burns more fat. Now, if you gain weight in the wintertime, that's because, like I said, increased, we tend to eat more and we tend to move less. But if you just kept the same activity up, you tend to burn more fat in the wintertime because your body, your metabolism is burning fat because of the cold. And then the fourth is improved sleep. We sleep better in cooler temperatures. I was even reading a study some time ago that says that even in the summertime, provided you want your electric bill to be a little more pricey, turn the thermostat down in your house, and you sleep better when you're cool. Your body doesn't have to be as active when it's in a dormant state. And so I just wanted to share those things with you, and I really want us to kind of talk about, and I emphasize winter because that's where I am in places where I'm not used to being. Because as I said in the video I shared, I skipped a lot of winters. And I knew I needed winter. But because everybody else needed me to be in spring and summer, and everything about life in the world, especially as a Black woman and a mom and a business owner and a friend and support for so many people, everybody around you needs you to stay in summer and spring. They need your fruit. They need you to be pretty. They need your leaves to be full. They need to bring other people and show, oh, look how much fruit she bears. And then you get caught up in it. Your ego gets caught up in it. Oh yeah, I'm a fruit bearing diva. I'm going to always be bringing fruit. Oh, you need something? Come here. I got you. What you need? I got you. Oh, but there comes a time in your life, and I believe it comes with age and wisdom, and just because you're old don't mean you're wise. But I believe some things happen in your life, and sometimes it comes through trauma, tragedy, some type of awakening where you say, wait a minute, I need me. Because I'm really not dead, baby. I'm just dormant. And in the dormant state, which is one of the places I really said all of that, comparing the trees and looking at our lives and even our skin and our hair changes because humidity leaves the air. And we have to treat our skin and hair different, and being sensitive to know yourself. And where I really wanted to get you to say all of that, looking at the trees and the harvest and our bodies and what we need is to four things. Know yourself. Know yourself. Take that time to know yourself. That's number one. Number two, know what kind of tree you are. If we compare ourselves to nature, are you a fruit-bearing tree? Are you an evergreen? Are you in the tropics? Are you in a place that experiences all four seasons? You have to know what kind of tree you are so you can understand your own fruit. And when somebody coming by you has a conversation about you, that you ain't giving no apples. And deep down on the inside, because you really ain't talking if you're dormant, on the inside, you know it ain't time for me to give apples. Keep walking. Keep walking. It ain't your turn. Matter of fact, you've been here. Matter of fact, if you had taken those apples like I told you and done what you were supposed to do with those apples, or you're taking those peaches like I told you and harvested when my fruit was really giving, because I told you, and I've told people in my life, especially my personal life, I may not be with you this way all the time, so get me while you got me. Because I know the way my life operates. I move with the cloud. Whatever God says, I move. So I may not be here this way. Don't mean I'm not going to be in your life. But you may not be able to get this fruit from me this way in this type of abundance always. Not only that, you might need to use the seeds and the fruit. Don't just consume it all. You might need to use the seeds and the fruit so you can have your own tree. And sometimes that's really awkward for relationships because they're used to you giving and bearing fruit, and your fruit is good, and they brought other people there. And some people will even take fruit from you and sell it to other people. They will profit off your fruit and don't bring you nothing, don't water you, and be impatient with your winter. And sometimes your winter will reveal all of that, because you sitting there dormant with your mouth closed, and you hearing the conversation that people harvest from you have had about you. You're hearing conversations that the farmer who understands what you're going through is having about you, but he's still kind of antsy because he's going to profit from everything you bring to him, everything you yield. And then you hear the arborist, and our arborist is God. That arborist knows that tree. That arborist knows when that tree is supposed to be producing. And if you don't have that relationship, let the arborist talk to you. So when that number 2, knowing what kind of tree you, number 3, knowing what kind of season you're in. What season are you in? Is it your winter, your spring, your summer, your fall? Is it because of you're having people in your life that are kind of careless about their environment, and you're experiencing global warming because of some relationships that the weather ain't right, the conditions ain't right for you? Do you need to shift? Because you can and a good arborist can uproot a tree and move it. And to make those necessary changes to keep it being fruit bearing without it killing itself. I said on the video I did the other day how they took redwoods in California, a certain section of redwoods, and they injected them with adrenaline to keep them from having hibernating, to keep them from having a quote unquote winter. California doesn't have winters like we do on the East Coast, but they wanted to keep the redwoods from having a winter. And because they injected those trees with adrenaline, they died. All because they didn't have a cycle of dormancy. And I looked at when we experienced, let me not get beyond myself. So number 1 is know thyself. Number 2, know what kind of tree you are. Number 3, know what kind of season you're in. And number 4, know what's dead versus what's dormant. Knowing what's dead, because some things do die in the winter and not come back. You got a lot of flowers that die and don't come back. You have a freeze that can happen, and that tree or that foliage or those flowers don't come back. Those plants never come back. So some things do die in the winter, as they should, or as the circle of life or the cycle of life happens with us. But most of the time we're just dormant. And in that, if I can have a part 1 and 2 to the is it dead or dormant, notice how people treat you in your dormant season. Just notice. You just sit there with your mouth closed and just notice. Don't say a word. And don't judge. Just notice. Notice without attachment. Just notice. And the reason why I say don't judge, because if you just sit there and notice and watch, see how they handle you, and then you get to behave accordingly. You don't have to jerk fruit out of anybody's hand. Because when I think about the fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance, it's one fruit. And we're supposed to bear fruit. But you don't have to take fruit back from anybody. You're a yielding tree. That's what you're supposed to do. They're supposed to pick from you. I wrote a song called Joy, a good medicine. A good medicine comes from laughter. People come to pick your fruit. They're supposed to. Let them pick from you. That's what you're supposed to do. So you don't snatch fruit back. But in your dormant season, when they talking and complaining about the fruit that you're no longer giving, it's just for a season. But they talking about you like you're dead. Let them talk, because they'll eventually cut themselves off. Remember the tree that walks? I'm leaning towards the sun. And if you ain't got the strength, or if you don't have the root system that can move with me, or we don't have the relationship or the community that they can move with you, then the roots pop and other roots grow in that direction. But listen, just sit sometimes and listen and observe. And not only them, you. Look at what you're saying about yourself in your dormant season. What are you saying about yourself? Black woman, black man, who I'm talking to specifically. And if you love us, then okay, I'm talking to you too. What are you saying about yourself in your winter? What's the conversation you're having? I was telling someone the other day that sometimes I used to like to be in the house. I've always had an issue with the sun with my skin. It doesn't burn, it blisters. And it started when it got worse as I got older. And so when people want to, I love the beach, but I have to go at night or early in the morning, or I have to be covered. but I was with someone and it was, you love to stay in the house. I didn't feel like I owed them an explanation. And then in the times of many people who we have, some of us are introverts who have extrovert responsibilities or extrovert seasons. It's nothing like being with someone who is constantly an extrovert. And then they stay in extrovert mode 24/7. And that's them. And that's the way God made them. We need both of us. But if they stay in extrovert mode 24/7 or most of the time, when you go in introvert mode and you come back out, think about a child. If you're a child and you're playing outside and your friends are outside and y'all are riding bikes and back in the day playing hopscotch and stickball in the street and, catching lightning bugs and all that kind of stuff we used to do, and you're having that good time and you're outside, let's say in the daytime with your friends, and you go inside either to get something to drink or to rest, or your mama call you in because you got to finish doing something she wants you to do. Can you imagine having fun outside with your friends and enjoying the weather and skates and skateboarding? And when we were young, we didn't. My grandparents had skates around the house, but it was too many grandchildren for you to have a pair. So you put one skate, the skate with the key, where you kept your shoe on and you slid your foot, and they were metal, and you tighten that up. Well, it wasn't enough skates for everybody to have a pair, so you just had one skate. And you be getting it on that one skate, going there, having all that fun outside. And I was already, my grandma would call me in because she knew my little situation, with the sun, and come in, and you go in and get your reprieve, get your water, get your rest. Can you imagine going back outside and your friends mad with you, or smack your hand and say, don't you ever do that again? All because you knew your seasons, all because you know what you can handle, all because you understand your winter. I pray that even in my excitement in the comparing the trees, somebody may say this may be too much, but I believe I said enough for everybody to have a level of understanding. Know yourself. Know what kind of tree you are and the fruit you bear. Know the season you are in. Understand, being patient with yourself. This part of my life is winter. This is summer. This is spring. And not being not overthinking it, but just understanding it. Oh no, over here, I don't never want no winter with my money now. I don't never want my money to be in winter. But then again, it may have to be. Maybe you're saving it over here because if you have investments, God knows that particular stock is going to tank. And so maybe you're not putting it over here. So maybe it looks like it's, but I don't really want I don't want winter when it comes to how I like to give. But I know sometimes I do have winter. God said, not that one and not now. Or learning how to receive, it's so much, but sometimes in our lives, we have different seasons at different points within our own selves. And then that last one, know what's dead or what's dormant. In your wintertime, some things may die off forever, but most of the time it's just dormant. And as James Cleveland's song say, please be patient with me. God is not through with me yet. And I pray that I'm patient with people in my life. And I thank God for the people that are patient with me, because maybe sometimes I may have wanted fruit from them and it's their winter. And just understanding, I know you coming back. I know you coming back. And you know what? I ain't even going to be that thirsty because I done been with you so long. I got some of your seeds and I'm going to plant over here. Matter of fact, we're going to grow groves together, and sometimes you're in the same frequency with somebody. You're so close that you're in the same seasons with them, so, understand, hello, winter. Welcome winter into your life. Welcome those benefits, that brain activity, that burning more calories, that tree that in wintertime you can get sap. You can get what I got just because I'm going through a change, so I just want to share that with you. Hello, winter. Come on in here with your fine self. And I hope you enjoy your day. Much love and peace. I'm grateful and I love y'all for real, for real.
Peace Place for Me, a virtual connection where the contagious love of Jesus Christ abides and thrives. We are an exclusive community purposed to enhance and expand spiritual and holistic growth to advance the kingdom of God. We get to enjoy life more abundantly in peace. You are welcome to join Pastor and Chaplain TracyMac in this virtual interfaith inclusive, and purpose-filled community. For access to join our virtual meetings, email us at peace@blackwomensworld.com. That is, peace@blackwomensworld.com. Or you can reach us at our website, www.peaceplaceforme.com. We look forward to seeing you.
You've been listening to Black Women's World Podcast, the BWWP, brought to you in part by TracyMac, Solutions for Life Institute, Coaching and Training Services. No doubt you have enjoyed being in our world, and it doesn't have to stop here. Head on over to blackwomensworld.com. This is my personal invitation to you to stay connected with me on social media and more. I'd love to see you there, and I'm so grateful you came to be with me here. Invite someone else to join you in our queendom next time so they can feel the vibe of our tribe of SistaNistas and SistaNista lovers too. Remember to be kind, be authentic, be generous, be excellent, be grateful, and while you're at it, go ahead and be extraordinary, because that's just what SistaNistas do, on purpose, through mission, with passion and compassion. It's a Black woman's world, baby, and you, my SistaNista, are proof. I'm your self-discovery companion, your professional peacemaker, and your host, TracyMac. Wherever you are in the world, may you love and be loved by somebody. Peace.